Welcome to our Migrations.info online bookstore. We have dozens of books available on a wide variety of subjects, but give our highest recommendation to the books listed on our recommended books page. Let's begin with some longtime classics. Dan, the Pioneer of Israel by Colonel J.C. Gawler. A classic good study by the keeper of the crown jewels in late 19th century Britain. Colonel J.C. Gawler first published this work in the 1890s and has remained in print to this day. A wonderful short study about Dan, one of the most important and often neglected tribes of Israel. No finer work on this subject has ever been written. Drama of the Lost Disciples by George F. Jowett. One of the most well-written, even captivating accounts of the events after our Lord's crucifixion. Little-known happenings in the early church, including ties between the early church in Rome and the royal house of Britain. This is a book that sheds much-needed light on events of the New Testament period. First published in the 1960s, it will remain a classic. We recommend it highly. 241 softcover pages, very readable. Judah's Scepter and Joseph's Birthright by John Hardin Allen. An analysis of the prophecies of the scriptures regarding the royal family of Judah and the many nations of Israel. This classic, originally written in 1901 by a respected Anglican bishop, details the fulfillment of the distinctive and separate prophecies concerning the two houses of Israel and Judah. It tells the biblical story of these two patriarchs and proves from the scriptures that separate, distinct prophecies have been fulfilled to each in our modern world. Allen was a well-respected bishop in the Anglican Church over a century ago, and this well-written book was his greatest lifetime achievement. An all-time classic British Israel exposition, which has stood the test of time. 377 pages. Post-Captivity Names of Israel by Dr. William Pascoe Gord. In ancient times, the Semitic neighbors of God's people did not call them by the name of Israel. The names by which they were known point to their true identity and are the subject of this wonderful classic study from the 1930s. This little-known but important history is one of the historical keys proving the western migration of the ancient lost house of Israel. Dr. Gord was one of the most important British Israel leaders of the 20th century, and this work is perhaps his best of many wonderful expositions. The Tender Twig by Francis Henking. This story is unique and moving in its significance and in its appeal. It is the touching romance of Princess Tamar Tefi and Prince Okade, beginning in the dim past of biblical days, having a surprising Cinderella motif set against a gripping background of history, and reaching a climax at Tara in Ireland. A wonderful historic love story linking old Canaan with the Isles of the West. An enchanting story. We also have modern best-selling recommended books, the 4-book series by Stephen M. Collins, The Laws of the Second Coming by Dr. Stephen E. Jones, and of course our own published books by historian W.H. Bennett, The Story of Celto-Saxon Israel and Symbols of Our Celto-Saxon Heritage. We highly recommend all of these books for your reading pleasure and for a firm foundation in the Bible on the British Israel message. Click on each book title for more information about each one. Thanks for visiting us at Migrations.info.